Thank you very much, Professor, and good afternoon to everybody, the honourable ministers and respected delegates, viewers. The panels that I've seen today have been truly nothing short of exceptional. And I'm really excited because science and technology and innovation are going to play a crucial role in the future of our nation. And events such as this play such an important role in strengthening the partnerships of public-private sector, and they also reflect the importance of our Pan-African and global role in the emerging market environment. I'm going to share some slides with you, and I hope this works. Is this it? I'll just see if this is coming up.
Yeah, it's up now. Thanks, Leila. Thank you.
Is it up? Okay, excellent. I'll just put it on slideshow and then hopefully. Excellent. Okay, there we have it. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's happening in the capital markets and in the financial markets, because I'm from the stock exchange, and I think this will give you a little bit of a different view from what you've been hearing around the incredibly interesting and fascinating developments in the space of science and technology. This picture just gives you a very interesting sense. We keep hearing about this V-shaped economy, and you can see a very sharp V, although the right-hand side is not as sharp as the, which is taking us back up to normality, isn't as sharp as the downswing. And so the first 6 months of our economy have been, by all accounts, some of the most extraordinary and demanding times in living history. And in the space of just 181 days, our financial markets have witnessed a historic crash, which we saw happening from the beginning of March, and the rand slid to record lows to the US dollar. South Africa received the third and final downgrade into junk territory, and then we had to exit the World Global Bond Index, which means that international traders are no longer tracking our country in the world of buying bonds. We had the largest single-day drops in the all-share index, which were recorded during this period. But then, towards the end of the month, sentiment started to change, and we saw global markets in a risk-off and wanting to start showing signs of a bit of a turnaround. The reason for this is really because South Africa offers a very large, diverse set of different kinds of stocks or assets, and this counterbalanced the world cycle. And in some ways, we've seen the bounce back, which is ahead of what we're reading in the papers about companies doing very badly and presenting very bad results. The stock market has moved beyond that and is expecting that companies will bounce back much quicker. And so what we have seen as a result of this bounce back is that the FTSE All-Share Index went from a low of minus 34% at this very bottom black line up to down only just under 5%. And in fact, yesterday, we were down only 1.25% on our top 40 index. There's also been renewed interest from internationals in the bond market, and particularly from these investors, because although we've been cut to junk status, we still offer a very good yield. And so the extent of the long-term social and economic damage that has been brought about on both our country and the rest of the world is still uncertain. Now I'm going to show you this next picture, which indicates the green or yellow lines indicate the number of listings, and the black line indicates market cap. And you'll see that even before COVID happened, that the number of listings had already started to come down. Now, we've seen this as a global phenomenon, and even when there was more interest from internationals, or what they call on the floor risk on appetite, developed markets had a number of technology listings and a number of other listings. But South Africa didn't see the same thing. We didn't have growth in the number of listed companies. Our listed companies now consist of 345 companies that have listed, and I think that there is significant opportunity for young people and for entrepreneurs of our nation to embrace the fields of science and technology and homegrown innovation and start to build companies that could in time list on our exchange. Even though the number of companies on the exchange, if we look at this green line, has contracted, the market cap has increased, and that just shows that we've got a lot of really big dual listed companies, and those companies derive a lot of their income from outside the country, which kind of shields us from what's going on in the global markets. If we have a look at this final chart, we see that these black bars are GDP, and this green line indicates the South African exchange market capitalization. And what you can see towards the end of the graph is that the difference between GDP and the market capitalization is very pronounced. And this shows the growth over a period of 20 years. So what is interesting to note is that over this period, the difference, South Africa's GDP has slowed quite significantly, but the equity markets has continued to show significant growth. The World Bank for 2018 shows that South Africa's market cap as a percentage to GDP was 4 times the average of EMEA. So we have a very sophisticated capital markets relative to our real economy. And despite the COVID-related crash in March, at the end of June, our market cap was up by 4.19% on the prior year. So we are still, at this point in time, bigger in our exchange market than we were last year. So although the market cap has grown, we have to acknowledge that the number of companies that we have listed on the exchange has contracted. Now, historically, we were always a country with very large asset or very diversified companies, and many of those companies had a global footprint. What we are seeing is that is now starting to contract, and as a country, we have to think differently about how we tackle the capital markets. And so there are 4 areas that we are focusing on very heavily: the infrastructure world, the SME market, and SA Tomorrow will be an enabler, and sustainability. Now, other economists much smarter than me in the past have said there's a huge dichotomy between government and business, and we need to move away from fixing a crisis to rather co-creation and market shaping. So we need cooperation between public and private sector, and these are the areas in which South Africa can definitely punch way above its weight. So we are looking at this point at a potential private placement platform which will enable the raising of capital for our infrastructure projects. And let's not forget that infrastructure projects are not only going to enable a more sophisticated economy, but they're going to create jobs. We do believe that the next growth node in the country is the SME market. Now, SMEs struggle to list on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange because our requirements are very stringent. And so we need to find a new way of enabling SMEs to access capital in a less formal and less rules-based approach. I'm going to skip the essay tomorrow and go to sustainability, and I'll finish on essay tomorrow because it brings it all together. But sustainability in the SDG goals, which many of the panelists have spoken about. So we're looking there at climate-related or environmental, we're looking at social elements, and we're looking at governance elements. We have seen large flows from the rest of the world focusing very heavily on companies that are in the sustainable development space. And the reason for that is that these companies are more resilient. And we've seen through the crisis that these companies have been the companies that have been able to weather the storm of COVID and who have come out of the back of COVID in a much healthier and more cash flush state. We currently run, I'm moving back now to the third last block, which is essay tomorrow. We currently run a program with government ministers and our top listed entities where we visit New York. We normally do this in November. And the purpose of that is to present South Africa as an investment destination. We are looking to try and expand that rapidly. We've seen tremendous outflows in both the debt and the equity market from our country by international investors, and we now need to put our best foot forward. We cannot have public and private sector separately going out to the world to try and attract funds. We have to stack hands, we have to co-create, and we have to collaborate. And so I'm very excited about the possibilities, and this crisis could present enormous challenges for many nations, but it also could present opportunities. And for us, the opportunity is to collaborate and to co-create between private and public sector. Thank you, Professor, and thank you to everybody for listening.